Hey, this is Daniel DiPiazza. I'm the Authority Architect, and every day in 2026, I am vlogging my life and my business. And if you want to come along for the journey, I don't know why you'd want to see this, but if you do want to come along for the journey, please subscribe. Okay, so let's get into it. Yesterday was part one of my story time, and I was sharing with you how I had one simple interaction that ended up snowballing into me building a whole career, making millions of dollars from this one interaction. And of course, we could look at the Kevin Bacon-ness of the world and say everything's all connected, and it is, but this is really a strong connection. When I left off, I was telling you how my friend Jordan Harbinger, who I met via a random chat bubble on the internet, became someone who I met in person. And essentially, what happened was I networked with Jordan when I first got to LA. Networked with him. Essentially, what I did was I found some way I could offer him value, and in exchange, he was willing to spend some time with me. Now, after that lunch meeting, I did something which I think, very powerful, but most people don't think about it. They don't, they don't do it. We had a great lunch meeting. It was nice sushi. It was in Hollywood, and I said to him, "Hey, this was a fantastic time meeting you. Thank you for taking your time. Who else do you think I should meet now that I'm here in LA? Who else is cool like you?" And I gave him the opportunity to connect me with someone who I didn't know, just so I could keep building my circle as I just got into this town. And he said, "Oh, I should connect you with my friend Gabe Mizrahi. Gabe and I are actually the ones who did this North Korea trip together, which at the time was wild and it's still wild now thinking about it. They used to do tours to North Korea, which are not possible anymore, let me tell you." And I said, "That's interesting." Yeah, he said Gabe's a film producer and he's working on a TV show called The Lip TV right now. I said, "That's interesting. I have no idea what that is." So he connected me with Gabe, and he just said, "Hey, this is a guy I just met. I think you'd really enjoy talking with him. Have fun, guys." And that was it. Now, Jordan introduced me to Gabe, and I can't quite remember what the next step was. I don't remember if I ended up meeting Gabe for coffee later or if we just connected via email, but I spoke with Gabe and I said, "Hey, you know, great meeting you. Love to hear what you have going on." And he shared with me that he was working as an anchor at a streaming television show called The Lip TV. Now, I didn't really know much about about streaming TV at the time. I just moved to LA. I had no idea what was happening, but you got to think in 2013, this was something that was still pretty new. Long form studio based content that was just posted on YouTube, which is what this was pretty rare. And this was a studio right in Hollywood. No, it was right in Beverly Hills. It was right at the beginning of Beverly Hills, right when you cross over from like Dogwood to Beverly Hills, and you cross that barrier where it goes from ghetto to nice. And it was right in that pocket. It was right by Fugo de Chao, and it was right by that garlic restaurant. That's everything garlic for that restaurant. Um, I can't remember what else it was near, but it was this little hole in the ground studio, and I went to go visit Gabe just to meet him and see what type of work he was doing, and I was pretty impressed. I mean, the studio itself was an amazing setup. They had like a TriCaster setup with different cameras, and they had a professional news desk and these great screens behind. I'm like, this looks like a CNN set. It's pretty legit. I'll see if I can put pictures up on this screen, or maybe I'll just be too lazy to edit it. But I was introduced to Gabe. It was cool. And I thought, all right, well, I have a connection, and I have a friend who's now doing television in LA. Great. And so then I got on my grind, and I thought, I need to start moving my career forward. And so I came up with this idea of interview. How can I basically interview people and use that studio? Because I'm like, I want to figure out how I can utilize this connection that I now have. And I know this is kind of like a weird way of thinking because most people don't think like this. But I just thought I have resources and a connection now. How can I set this up? So I started to think about what would be a reason to interview someone, and I thought, well, people always want to promote things, and I started to look on Amazon to see which well-known celebrities had books coming out, because I thought, well, they're going to want to produce books. They're going to want to promote books, and I saw that Lori Grenier, who is one of the sharks on Shark Tank, was coming out with a book called Invent It, Sell It, Bank It. It was basically a story about how she created products and sold them on QVC, and how she iterated products. And I saw that she had a book coming out in a few months. And basically what I did was I looked up her agent's information on a website. And then I cold emailed her agent, one of her managers, whose name was Penny. And I said, "Hey, Penny, I am a writer for Huffington Post," because at that time I had a few articles out on Huffington Post, so I linked to those articles. I said, "Hey, I'm a writer on Huffington Post. I'd love to interview Lori for her upcoming book. I'm in LA." And she said, great. She actually responded to me. She said, great, I'll get back to you when we're in LA. And I didn't really know if it was going to work, but a couple weeks down the line, she emailed me back and said, Lori's going to be in LA. She's only going to have an hour. It's going to be something like, 9 p.m. on a Tuesday. And can you come interview her? And I said, I'll do you one better. I have a studio we can take her to. Now, I didn't have the studio at this time. I didn't have cameras. I didn't have studios. I didn't have any money to hire these people either. It was I was totally winging it. And it just so happened that I called Gabe and I said, hey, can you ask your producer if I can use this studio? I want to interview this woman. And I don't know how he did it, but he was able to just pull some strings and get me in there after everyone had closed. But the camera crew was still there, and they're like, yeah, we'll shoot it for you. I mean, it was just one of those things where everything worked out perfectly. And I remember Lori was staying at the Beverly Hills Hotel. I ordered an Uber Black to pick her up, and we went over to the studio, which is maybe like only 2 miles away in Hollywood, or in Beverly Hills. And I did this interview with her. I think I still have pictures of it. I'll find it somewhere. I think the interview is down now. I'm not sure. I did an interview with her, and I thought that was going to be it. I was going to put it up on my blog and call it a day. And after that, the owner of the studio, the producer of that studio, Michael, saw my interview with her, which it wasn't part of his show. He just saw that I'd somehow done an interview with her on his set. Obviously, his team probably showed him, and he's like, "Huh, this guy's interesting," and he invited me to lunch. And it was through that lunch that I ended up becoming a host on the Lip as well, just like Gabe. And it was crazy because that ballsy move to just assume that I could use this space and ask for it allowed me to get in there, actually build the relationship with Lori, who I ended up working with later down the road, and we can talk about that in a different video. So I built a relationship with Jordan, I built a relationship with Gabe, built a relationship with Lori, and then I met Michael, who was the producer at the Lip TV, who owned that studio. Come to find out, the studio was partially funded by Mel Gibson at a time when Mel Gibson was not very popular. And I became then a host on that show. And that opened up tons of doors to me, to other celebrities, and the person who would eventually lead me to my book deal. But that's going to be for part 3 of this story. This was part 2. So hopefully now you're seeing that through uncertain but deliberate action, I'm now using my intelligence and my networking skills, my relationship building skills, and my conversational skills to move my way up in a social strata. Now, I'll keep talking about this in my story times, but this is my mindset when I go into a situation. I assume that people want to work with me. I assume that it's going to work out, and it doesn't always, but I assume it does. I assume it will, and then I just walk into it with confidence, and that's been working for me for 20 years now. This is part 2. In part 3, I'll share with you exactly who I met on the Lip TV that opened up this world for me of publishing and writing and furthered my career. But it all started with a chat bubble in Jordan Harbinger. So, on to the next time, and I'll see you tomorrow on the vlog. Peace. Like and subscribe.